My name is Homan, and my life got weird fast. I saw an ad for Battle for 100 Million. I signed up, thinking it was a joke. Suddenly, I was on a stage with 19 others, all in numbered jerseys. I was player 10. The host, Pillowman, bounced out in a pillow suit, grinning like a maniac. He announced, one of us would win $100 million. The catch? Brutal team challenges, and the losers had to vote out one of their own. We were split into 2 teams of 10. The tension was real, athletes, brainiacs, and me just hoping not to embarrass myself. The rules were simple: win challenges, avoid blame, and survive the vote. As the show's logo flashed behind Pillowman, I realized this was really happening. My journey for 100 million was about to begin. Team selection was nerve-wracking. The air was thick with anticipation, and every contestant's eyes darted around the room, sizing up the competition. You could almost hear the silent calculations: who looked strong, who seemed fast, who might be a secret liability. No one wanted to be picked last, and everyone wanted to land on a team that could carry them through the first round. Player 1, Sarah, picked the strong. She went for the obvious choices: athletic builds, confident stances, people who looked like they'd been training for this moment. Her team quickly took shape, a powerhouse lineup that made the rest of us nervous. Player 20, Ben, picked randomly. He didn't seem to care about strategy or appearances. He just pointed and called out names, almost as if he was drawing names from a hat. It was chaotic, but also kind of refreshing in a weird way. I landed on Ben's blue team, a ragtag bunch. We were a mix of personalities and abilities, some of us barely making eye contact, others cracking nervous jokes. We didn't look like much, but there was a strange sense of camaraderie forming already. Our first challenge, Pillar Dodge, was announced, and the tension in the room spiked. The set looked like something out of a wild game show, with spinning padded pillars and narrow platforms daring us to stay upright. The rules were simple: stand on a platform while spinning padded pillars tried to knock us off. Last team standing wins. But simple didn't mean easy. The pillars spun faster than I expected, and the platforms felt even smaller once you were up there. The red team moved like pros, keeping 3 players up. They communicated with quick shouts and subtle gestures, working together like they'd practiced for weeks. Our turn was chaos. Pillars spun fast, teammates flew off, and communication was impossible. We shouted over the noise, but it was every person for themselves. People slipped, stumbled, and tumbled off the platforms in a blur. Soon, only Maya and I remained. We exchanged a quick, desperate glance. Could we hold on long enough to turn things around? We dodged, jumped, and ducked, barely hanging on. Every second felt like an eternity, as the pillars spun even faster, testing our balance and nerve. With seconds left, a pillar clipped Maya's foot. She tried to recover, but it was too late. She toppled off, leaving me alone on the platform. I was the last one standing, but we lost. Red team had more survivors. It was a hollow victory, and the disappointment was written all over our faces. The sting of defeat hit hard. We'd barely started, and already the pressure was mounting. No one wanted to be the first to go home. We braced for the first elimination. The air was thick with anxiety, and everyone was suddenly very quiet, lost in their own thoughts. The voting room loomed, and alliances were already forming. Whispers and side glances filled the space as people started to strategize, realizing that social game was just as important as physical strength. I realized in this game, you had to be more than strong. You had to be invisible when things went wrong. The pressure was on, and every move from here on out would matter. The first vote would set the tone for everything. Friendships, rivalries, and trust would all be tested in the next few minutes. I just hoped I'd survive it. The game had only just begun, but already it felt like everything was on the line. Losing stung. In the voting room, blame flew fast. Kevin accused Dave, Maya defended herself, and everyone scrambled to avoid the target. I kept quiet, hoping to stay under the radar. When it was my turn, I voted for Kevin. He was loud, unhelpful, and divisive. But Dave got the most votes and was the first to go. The next day, trust was shattered. Our new challenge: clean your room. Each team faced a disaster zone. Clothes, toys, and sticky stains everywhere. First team to impress Pillowman with a spotless room would win. This was our shot at redemption, but teamwork was shaky. We needed to pull together, or we'd be right back in the voting room. The pressure to cooperate was real. Could we finally act like a team, or would we fall apart again? Everything was on the line. We crushed the cleaning challenge thanks to Maria, our secret organizing weapon. The red team imploded and lost a strong player to infighting. Next up, the 9-legged race. All 9 of us tied together, stumbling across a field. Practice was a disaster. Constant tripping, shouting, and blame. The race itself was chaos. We collapsed halfway, thanks to Kevin's misstep. The red team barely beat us, but a loss is a loss. The walk to the voting room was silent. Kevin was the obvious target. He'd caused the fall and the drama. He was voted out, and honestly, no one was sad to see him go. Teamwork was our biggest enemy. If we didn't fix it, we'd keep losing. The stakes were only getting higher. Down to 8 contestants, the challenges only got weirder and more unpredictable. The tension in the air was almost electric. Everybody knew that one wrong move could mean the end of their journey. The stakes had never felt higher, and every face in the room showed a mix of nerves and determination. Next up, Mona Lisa in space. A wild, zero-gravity painting challenge with floating paintballs and brushes drifting through the air. We had to create a masterpiece while everything, including ourselves, floated around like we were in a sci-fi movie. We spun, drifted, and made a spectacular mess. Paint splattered everywhere, and laughter echoed as we tried to control the chaos. It was impossible to stay serious with colors flying and teammates bumping into each other. Maria tried desperately to direct us, shouting instructions over the comms, but our art was a disaster zone. Pillowman, the judge, called it creative, which was generous. We lost again, and the sting of defeat was starting to wear us down. In the voting room, blame was murky. No one wanted to point fingers, but everyone knew someone had to take the fall. We'd all failed, but the rules were clear. Someone had to go home. The tension was thick as we cast our votes, hoping we'd made the right call. Then came the Among Us challenge, a frantic race to find hidden plushies scattered around the set. It was a scavenger hunt with a twist. But there was a catch. One teammate was secretly sabotaging us as the imposter, making the challenge even more intense. Paranoia set in as we started to suspect each other. We only found 2 plushies. Our imposter was just too clever, and frustration bubbled over as we realized we had been outplayed from the inside. We voted out the suspected saboteur, and for once, we were right. The relief was real, but it didn't change the fact that our numbers were shrinking fast. We were losing players at an alarming rate, and every elimination made the room feel emptier and the competition more cutthroat. Every loss made us weaker, both as a team and as individuals. The weight of defeat was starting to show on everyone's faces. The competition was thinning, and trust had all but vanished. Suspicion was everywhere, and alliances were crumbling. The next round would be make or break, a true test of everything we had left. The host's announcement sent a chill through the group. Could we finally win, or were we doomed to keep shrinking? The pressure was suffocating, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Every challenge now felt like our last chance to prove ourselves, to stay in the game just a little longer. Survival was all that mattered, and with every round, the fight only got fiercer. 10 players left, 5 from each team. Pillowman announced, no more teams. It was every player for themselves. The first solo challenge, red light, green light with a creepy doll. 3 were eliminated for the slightest twitch. I survived barely. Next, a pizza-making contest. I panicked, threw random toppings on dough and hoped for the best. Maya, my old teammate, struggled with her oven. I helped her, one small act of kindness. My pizza was a disaster, but another player's was worse. He was eliminated. Maya thanked me. Player 15, the ultra-competitive guy, glared. He was here to win, not make friends. The game was now cutthroat. Every mistake could send you home. Alliances were fragile, and trust was gone. I was still in, but barely. The next challenge would be even tougher. I had to stay sharp. One slip, and I'd be out. The pressure was relentless. After pizza, only 5 remained. The next challenge, build a cardboard bridge strong enough for Pillowmen. Only 3 of us succeeded. Me, Sarah, and player 15. Sarah was a powerhouse. Player 15 was ruthless. I was the underdog. The final 3 faced an epic obstacle course. Walls, monkey bars, puzzles, and a sprint. Sarah led early but got stuck on the puzzle. Player 15 solved it fast. I stayed steady, finished the puzzle, and sprinted. Player 15 was ahead but exhausted. I passed him at the finish. Sarah never finished. It was down to me and player 15. The final battle was set. One last challenge for $100 million. Everything I'd survived came down to this. I was ready to give it everything. The final duel, me versus player 15, felt like the climax of a wild dream. We stood on a narrow platform high above the arena floor, each gripping a padded stick, the crowd's anticipation almost tangible. The lights were blinding, the air electric with tension, and every eye in the room was fixed on us. It was the kind of moment you imagine as a kid, but never expect to actually live. The rules were simple. First to knock the other off 3 times would claim victory. But in that moment, nothing felt simple. Every second stretched out, every movement magnified. Player 15 towered over me, bigger, stronger, and with a reputation for being ruthless. I knew brute force wouldn't win this. I focused on defense, on reading his moves, on waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He came at me with wild, heavy swings, trying to end it quickly. I kept my balance, dodged, and waited. When he overextended, I seized my chance. One quick move, and I scored the first point. The crowd erupted, but he wasn't finished. In round 2, he powered through my defenses, knocking me off with sheer strength. Suddenly, it was tied, 1-1. My heart pounded in my chest. The final round was pure exhaustion. Every muscle in my body screamed. He swung for my head, desperate for the win. I ducked at the last second, swept his legs, and watched as he tumbled off the platform. For a moment, there was only silence. Then confetti exploded from above, raining down in a blur of color and sound. I had done it. I had won. Pillerman cheered, the crowd roared, and I just stood there, stunned, barely able to process what had happened. $100 million. The number echoed in my mind, almost too big to believe. My life would never be the same. In that instant, everything changed. I felt a rush of gratitude, disbelief, and overwhelming joy. I'd survived every challenge, every vote, every twist the game could throw at me. Each obstacle had felt impossible at the time, but somehow, I kept moving forward. I wasn't the strongest or the smartest, but I never gave up. I kept believing, even when the odds were stacked against me. That's how I won the battle for 100 million. Not with brute force or genius, but with heart, grit, and a refusal to quit. Sometimes the underdog really does come out on top. Against all expectations, I proved it could be done. I smiled, thinking of everything it took to get here. The sacrifices, the setbacks, the moments I almost gave up. Every second was worth it. The adventure was over, but my story was just beginning. I stepped off that stage with a new sense of purpose, ready for whatever came next. And to think, it all started with a crazy online ad. A single click that changed my life forever.